Hi, and welcome to my channel where I make dishes inspired by some of my favorite video game characters. Today's dish is inspired by Mitsurukirijo from Persona 3. I've always felt like Mitsuru is the definition and epitome of cool. She's beautiful, smart, strong, respectful, determined, and hardworking. She's absolutely gorgeous and cool, and of course she's even her school's president. I also really love how poised and graceful she is. I know that a lot of these qualities are due to her fortunate upbringing from her rich father, and I know a lot of these things cause her some stress to uphold her good name, but I feel like she does an amazing job living up to her reputation. I remember when playing Persona 3 for the first time, I was sure there had to be a huge catch to Mitsuru because all of the positives just kept stacking up. In my opinion, she really doesn't have any negatives as you learn about her. She seems like the kind of person I would have been really drawn to when I was in school, and I would really want to be her friend. Mitsuru does a great job keeping C's in line and on task, and there's no doubt that Mitsuru has a bright future ahead of her, whatever she does and wherever she chooses to go. When thinking of a dish for Mitsuru, it wasn't too hard due to her elegance and taste she shows in the game, especially with the extra nighttime events introduced in Persona 3 Reload. I knew I wanted to make some kind of dessert with tea since she enjoys to brew and sip tea with the main character. Luckily, there are plenty of tea-infused desserts to reference, and therefore a lot of recipes that Mitsuru would likely love. One last aspect of Mitsuru that I wanted to bring to the dish was the bold and beautiful red color of her hair. With all that in mind, I ended up deciding on a raspberry tea loaf cake, and it was truly très bien. Here's what you'll need to make your own. Whole milk, 4 tea bags of your choice, I used Earl Grey, unsalted butter, honey, granulated sugar, 2 large eggs, all-purpose flour, salt, baking powder, zest of 1 lemon, fresh or frozen raspberries, powdered sugar, and dried mint. As far as lemon zest, I've made this cake with both fresh and dried lemon zest and haven't noticed a difference, so feel free to use either. We'll start out by heating a half cup of the whole milk in a small saucepan on medium-low heat. We want to heat it until it's simmering or slightly bubbly and warm. Once simmering, we'll remove the pan from the heat and steep 2 of the tea bags inside for 30 minutes. The other 2 tea bags will be used later. You can take a load off for a few minutes as it steeps, but once the timer is closer to going off, go ahead and preheat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit and grab a loaf pan. You'll grease all sides of your loaf pan and then set it to the side. We're going to melt our unsalted butter, and if you're using squeezable or semi-solid honey like me, you'll want to melt this as well. So place a half cup of unsalted butter and 2 tablespoons of honey in a small bowl and heat it in your microwave until melted. Let the butter and honey begin to cool to room temperature. Once cooled, add the butter and honey to the bowl of a stand mixer or a large bowl with an electric mixer. To this bowl, you'll also add in 3/4 cup of granulated sugar. We'll mix and cream together the mixture until smooth. We'll then grab our 2 eggs and add 1 at a time, beating the mixture well after each addition. It's time to mix in our dry ingredients. We'll pour in 1½ cups of all-purpose flour, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. We'll mix again until the dry ingredients are well incorporated. Around this time, your tea bags steeping in the milk should be done. Remove the tea bags from the milk and make sure to squeeze out as much of the liquid from the tea bags as you can before you discard them. Give the infused milk a quick stir. We're about to return to the bowl of batter, but if you haven't already, grab the zest from 1 lemon as we're going to need it now. To the large bowl of batter, we'll add in our tea-infused milk, the lemon zest, and then we'll cut open our 2 other tea bags and pour the tea powder inside. Again, we'll mix everything again until well incorporated. We'll then use a rubber spatula to gently fold in a half cup of raspberries. Try your best to mix carefully so that the raspberries don't burst. Generally, since raspberries are somewhat heavy, the raspberries will sink to the bottom of the cake. I've tried the trick of dusting the raspberries in flour to prevent the sinkage, but it doesn't seem to help too much. However, feel free to try it if you'd like. Our batter is then all ready to go. We'll pour it into the prepared loaf pan and then we'll slide it into our oven to bake for 55 to 65 minutes until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. Towards the end of this bake, since an hour is quite a long time, The top of the cake can start to get pretty brown. To prevent it from browning too much, you can cover the pan in aluminum foil. When making myself, my cake is usually done right around 60 minutes, and I like to add the foil on at the 50-minute mark. We'll have a lot of time to ourselves while the cake bakes, which I'm sure Mitsuru would fill with studying or student council activities, but we can do whatever we'd like during it. However, this is the perfect time to make our raspberry glaze. In a medium bowl, we'll combine 3/4 cup of powdered sugar, 1 tablespoon of whole milk, about 1 tablespoon of smushed raspberries, and a 1/4 teaspoon of dried mint. We'll whisk everything together until the glaze becomes well combined and smooth. If you'd like the glaze to be slightly thinner, you can add in a little bit more milk, or vice versa. If you'd like it to be thicker, you can add a little bit more powdered sugar. Once the glaze is done, set it to the side for when the cake is finished. So once the cake is finished, we'll remove it from the oven and cool it on a cooling rack. We'll have to wait for the cake to cool completely before adding the glaze to make sure that the glaze doesn't melt too much. Once cooled, you can then drizzle the glaze on top of the loaf cake and top with some optional raspberries, and then you're ready to dig in. This cake makes for such a sophisticated bite. The flavor of the infused tea is subtle but present enough to feel you are truly sitting down for tea time. The flavor of the cake is modest and elegant, but the tangy flavor of the raspberries brings it to a whole new level. The raspberries and the raspberry glaze are both such beautiful colors, fitting of Mitsuru, and the addition of the glaze ensures that every bite has that addictive sweetness and depth of flavor. You can also play around with different fruits and tea flavors of your choice to make this loaf cake not only pretty simple to make, but perfectly suited to your own tastes. We already know that Mitsuru is a lady of many talents, and we also know that she is skilled at baking and brewing tea in the kitchen. Of course, what would stop her from combining her love for the two? She'd love to make this tea loaf cake because she'd get to enjoy the tea she loves in a new form, and it's so much easier to bring to the school or dorm with her to share with her friends and classmates. I can picture her baking this frequently to bring in for student council meetings, as if she doesn't already have enough on her plate, but she likes to keep herself busy in whatever ways she can, and this is certainly a less dangerous task than fighting shadows in Tartarus. That is, as long as Fuka isn't in the kitchen with her. The recipe card is in the video description if you'd like a more quick and concise version to give it a try. Like if you want a bite, subscribe for more geeky treats, and comment what foods Mitsuru reminds you of. Thanks for following along.